nice is it to have a practice day before diving back into things coming out of the break?
Yeah, I think for us, just getting to practice. I think a lot of guys were talking about we haven't had much practice the last 2-3 weeks. And actually, some guys actually feel like they're losing touches right on the ice. So we have this game coming up, and then obviously we have 3 or 4 days in between the next game. So this is really a nice welcome break for us to get some practice in it.
What do you want the group to focus on to come out of the break positively tomorrow night?
For me, it's just a reset. You obviously look at the stains, but you can't look at it anymore. To me, you reset it. I mean, I don't know. I trick myself. I think it's 0-0 again. You have to think that way. But that's not to take. Yeah, but you got to give guys credit. I mean, they've worked hard to get where they're at, but it's going to get harder. And I think sometimes, and I've said it before, you got to feel uncomfortable. I don't like feeling comfortable as a player. You need that uncomfortable feeling out there, and we all have to make that that mindset.
A lot of the guys sort of talking in the room have said similar things that yeah, it's great, we're doing well, but we're not content. We're focusing on looking ahead. That's what you want to hear from your players, I'm sure.
Well, I know our players are like I think we're 7-0-2 in our last 9, but guys are like they're pissed about some games, and I mean. I sleep at night when I hear that from players. I'm not here now, Coach. It's not what are you talking about? What are you fretting about? I think that I like the feeling that guys are uncomfortable. They're not happy. I mean, they're happy in certain respects, but they're unhappy about some of the play, and I like that.
Rick, what have you admired about your secondary scoring, about your bottom 6? Because I'm sure you've appreciated the job that they've done for you. I'm not sure if they're going to be able to keep up the pace that they've been scoring the last few weeks, but what have you valued and appreciated about the job that you're getting from that bottom 6?
Well, for me, it's like character. Like look at Dakota. Had tough camp. I didn't dress him. Look what he's done. Garland. Trade rumors. This sort of that. He's put it back. He's been one of our best players. Like it's the guys that they've had a little bit of adversity at the start of the year, and they've really helped solidify our team with that secondary scoring. It actually, have really dominated some of our games for us, helping us, come out the right side of the game sometimes because of those guys.
They seem to complement each other very well, but they also seem to be confident when they have the puck. They just don't. They pressure, but they pressure smart.
Well, I think a lot of chemistry, especially that Teddy's line and Joshua and Garland. I think they're connected. If I do the game reviews after games, and very rarely their fingerprints are over bad plays on our own end because they're always connected. And it's the same thing. They weren't scoring early. I know they were getting frustrated, but now they're starting to get rewarded because they're in the right spots. Now for them it's consistency, right? Can you continue to do it? That's the one thing. I tell Dakota is like, okay, now can you string months and months of good hockey together?
For Dakota in particular, what is it that's allowed him to turn his game around from, you talked about the healthy scratch and some of the stuff earlier?
He's working on his game. He's in better shape. More, I think he's always, I don't use the word dedicated. I think he's just more committed to his style of play, and it's working for him. And he's really working at his game.
Rick, I remember after the first time you played these guys, you were pretty unhappy with your team at that moment. Yeah. It was early in the season. Do you think maybe they were a little bit surprised by how the Flyers played, and maybe they'll be a little less surprised just based on recent results now?
Yeah, I just think there's learning lessons throughout the year. 82-game schedule, 82-game schedule. I think early on we beat Edmonton, I think 3 times, and I don't know if we thought it was going to be easy, but we got a rude awakening. That team works. They still work hard. They're probably, I don't know, they're one of the top teams for me of effort. They work hard every night. I don't think I've seen them have a game where they have not had effort. So I respect that, and we have to respect that. So. I think that was a wake-up call for us. It actually helped us kind of, I told Jonesy a long time ago, thanks for waking us up a little bit. So, but still, like we know the same thing. This team's going to come in hard again. I mean, that's their forte, their identity.
Rick, at the tail end of practice, you and Adam had all the defensemen down at one end, and that meeting seemed to go on a little longer than I guess I thought. But it looked very civil, like it wasn't terribly animated. I don't know if you want to give away secrets, but what were you kind of going over with the defense?
Well, it's more walkthroughs. We haven't had a practice time, and Adam's really got me to we got to start doing more of it. Is walkthroughs, just scenarios. And I love when guys get involved. You know, they ask questions. So it was more just more scenarios, walkthroughs. Hey, what do you do in these situations? We want to break up the puck like this. Where should you be? Things like that.
Speaking of defensemen, Nikita Zadorov's been here for nearly a month now. How are you finding his adaptation to the team and his kind of how he's gelling with Myers and the rest of the defensemen?
Yeah, I think his personality has really helped our room. You know, he's a fun-loving guy. I think I like that on the off ice. But you know, he's a guy that, and he's not there yet. Like, he knows there's another level. He's played really well for us, but for a guy who's big like that, can skate and shoot. There's another level for him, and he's starting to learn our system. It's a little different. He was telling me from Calgary, so but yeah, him and Mizey, they create a lot. They take up a lot of space. It's tough to go around those guys.
You mentioned last week Conor Garland is very similar to the player that you had in Arizona. Now difficult to play against. What do you think that change was? Because the last couple of weeks are an example of how well he's playing, but when you compare this year versus last year, there does seem to be a difference in his game.
Yeah, I know Garz really well. I had him. You know, Garz is he's an instinct guy, but he also has to play in the system. So he's one of those guys, he's got to find the happy middle. Like, I don't want him to be just a system guy, and that's all he thinks about, system. But he also, and I don't want to take his creativity. And I think he's just found that sweet spot. Like, he knows the time when he can be creative or use an instinct. And there's some times where I need him to be in a spot. He can't be anywhere else. And I think that he's really, the last 3-4 weeks, has found that spot where, we've come to agreement. There's some times you got to be here. I mean, there's no instinct play here. We rely to be in this spot. And there's other times, hey man, you feel you can, below the hash mark, you feel something, go for it. I think that's where he's gotten better at.
Your mantra about earning your day, and obviously you want the players, you said on the last road trip, you prefer they not look at the standings
Yeah.
if possible. Do you think it helps that a bunch of these guys, including all of your quote-unquote core guys, have done a lot of losing the last 3 years? Now, they're winning a little bit, but they're not halfway
Right.
through a season yet. Do you think it helps that focus, that they know what it's like on the other side?
Yeah, I think you can use that as whether it's a learning lesson. I thought at the beginning of the year we were scared of the start, and we really played, not scared, but we were like, oh my God, we better play hard here. Now, you're getting some success. Now we have to learn as, I don't know, I use the word term, where you get a little happy, you get a little bit comfortable. That's the next level for us, and that's what I'm guarded against, and the players are too. They're saying the right things, but yeah, can you use experience from losing? I don't know, maybe. But I rather them understand that, it's going to get harder. I mean, really hard. If they think that first, if it's easy, then we're in trouble. If it's going to get harder, every game's going to be tougher and tougher, and the heat's going to be even harder because there's going to be teams that didn't like their start. They're scrambling to get up there. There's teams that are in the middle of the pack that they got to make a move, and then you got the teams that usually are in first, are top, Colorado and Vegas and those type of teams. They're used to being at the spot, so they can handle the pressure. So there's 3 phases to each team, and we got to make sure we can handle all 3 type of teams in that sense.
I know you talked to a couple of us out at UBC a month ago about some of your thoughts on analytics, and you're aware of the analytics argument about your team and
Yeah.
your shooting percentage and goaltending. Ian Cole said, about that sort of skepticism or doubt, that if we can keep a chip on our shoulder, all the better. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I use that. I just actually read an article with the Baltimore Ravens use the negativity towards their team to win that game against San Fran. I don't like using the word negative. I think there's a lot of outside noise doesn't believe in this team, and whether the coaches or whatever. I kind of like that, me personally, as a player. I like that. I hope we use that as fuel. But at the end of the day, I mean, you're a motivated guy. Whether somebody says you're lucky or it's a matter of time before it blows up. I really don't care about that stuff. I think it's self-motivation and team motivation together.
Rick, we saw last year the coaching bump that you provided to this hockey team. Calendar's going to flip. We're going to be at the halfway point of the season. We're going to start talking about Coach of the Year candidates. You're going to have to be at the top of the list. I'm wondering, have you changed your message over the years? Because obviously your message is resonating with this team. You've got a great coaching staff around you, but I don't know if it's part and parcel of what Ian said in regards to this team lost so much, they're winning and they're playing the way that you want them to play. The job that you've done with this team and the fit and the way that your team is playing right now, I think it's an honor that you may well deserve at the end of the season. Why do you think everything is fitting and going the way that
Well,
it
I mean,
is?
if I preach the same to the players, I got to prove myself every day. Like, I try to come to the rink every day with something new, or whether it's a message or some kind of different drill. So I don't rest on anything. Like, I've done nothing other than the fact that, I'm part of this, this brick on this foundation. But yeah, I don't think of that stuff at all, to be honest with you. I got to think the same way as the players, and that's like, we were worried about today.
What can you tell though when a team is listening to you and is putting, what you put on paper out on the ice?
Well, I will say they are listening to the fact that when we've had some duds, there's a system part of our game we don't like, and we've went over it. Usually we're better the next game. I like that. I mean, I'm lucky to have a team like it. Sometimes, the message, you're a coach, you want, and they haven't really. The next game's bad, or the next game, the breakouts still aren't good. I think this team has really, whatever the weakness of that game, the next day, or whether we practice or I have a game review, we get usually better. I'm not saying we're 100% better, but we do get better at it, so that's a good thing. And as long as they keep listening, I'll have a job.
Lastly, coaching's never easy, but what's it like coaching this group and the way that the first half of the season has gone for you?
How it's easy? Like,
Coaching's never easy,
yeah.
but
Well-
they're not making it look easy for you, but
Well, just
You guys are
messaging for me. Like trying to explain them. I've been in different scenarios, from experience. Been in every different scenario, winning or losing, and try not to be stale. These guys, they need fresh ideas. They can't have the same voice all the time. That's why I like Adam Foote speaking, or if Sergei Konchar's here, or Mike Yeo. I like those guys talking or presenting, because you got to be careful as a head coach that they listen to your voice all the time. I've had coaches where I get tired of hearing them too. Even though they're saying the right things, it's nice to hear a different voice.
When you look back, how different is this team than when you first took over? And you mentioned, guys learning their lesson type thing after a tough game. Like, how long did it take for that to kind of kick in?
Well, for me, obviously you just chip away at certain things. You can't fix everything overnight. But I will say the one thing I've really appreciated with this team is if they've made a mistake, very rarely they duplicate 2 or 3 mistakes. In the past, a guy would make a bad move or a wrong read, and all of a sudden the second guy would make the wrong read. Next thing, it's a tap-in backdoor on Demko or Casey. Now, if we make a mistake, I mean, consistently, I'm not saying it doesn't happen, where we recover the right way. That's something I've really felt this team has matured, whether a guy bad pinch, now the second or the third guys are holding the fort till the guys get back into position. And you might have to give a grade B to the goalie, an outside shot, where before we would be all in, push the chips in, and all of a sudden it's a backdoor, you got no shot. The goalies have no shot. So I think that just giving the goalies a chance to play half the net is something that we've really taken pride here.
I remember watching jersey number 22 play for the black and orange. When you see that Flyers logo, that Flyers jersey, does it still strike something, even though they're your opponent tomorrow?
For me?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I mean, at any time, whether I come back to Philly, it's in your blood. As much as I've bounced around different organizations, even when you go on that plane ride and you come into Philly, the smell, it brings back memories. Just the way they used to run, with Mr. Snyder and stuff like that. Who knows if I went to a different organization, maybe you're not the same player, but I think that organization really helped me become the player I am, or even somewhat as a coach too.
When you were playing in Arizona, Torts was your assistant coach.
Yeah.
What do you remember about playing for him?
Obviously fiery, different role because he was assistant to Jim Schoenfeld, but really a fair guy. He could give you crap, but he's the first guy to put his arm around you. I don't know. I think he's such a fair guy, and I think sometimes the media take it to a different level, and I don't think he minds it either. So it's good, actually.
What do you think has been behind his longevity in the NHL?
Well, the one thing I've learned from Torts, he's unwavering. Like, he believes in something. It doesn't matter. Obviously he's going to listen to his assistant coaches and stuff. I'm not saying he doesn't bend, but there's certain non-negotiables that I really respect, that he, whether he, he doesn't care about getting fired. Like, he believes in a certain way of playing and running his team, and I respect that.